Hey y'all, welcome to the Darkness Dimension. And by Darkness Dimension I mean it's nighttime. I'm driving and I had a thought. Heads up, you saw from the time code, this is a longer one. So, a thought I had recently, a discussion I had recently, is in a board game, you are in the situation where you can either secure second place for yourself. It's like towards the end of the game, you can just basically say, okay, I'm locked in on getting second. It's basically over. But you also could play for first. There is a sequence of events that could happen that you could get first. But you're most likely going to get last. Like 99.9% of the time, you get last here. I think most people would agree that you should just secure second for yourself there. But not everyone. Some people think you should always play for first. Now, this answer to this question is going to depend on exactly how late in the game it is, exactly how long your odds are, and also the type of game. I'm going to talk about the type of game first. So, I think in this question depends on a question of how arbitrary is what you determine getting second. For instance, in Eurogames, there's often these victory points. And victory points are, most of the time, a very good assessment of how you performed in the game. How well did you play? These victory points are very typically just a good assessment of your performance, you know? In golf, you have strokes. That is a very objective way of determining how well you performed. Meanwhile, other games don't necessarily have this. For instance, Dune. There is a victory condition of have 3 strongholds. You either meet it or you don't. If someone meets it and someone else has 1 stronghold and everyone else has 0, that doesn't necessarily mean that the person that has 1 stronghold was the second person who played the second best. It's just like there's so many factors. Spice total, cards in hand, battles won. Like there's so many ways that you could maybe determine who got second in Dune, but they're all so arbitrary. It's just like not helpful at all. Another example is in Magic the Gathering when you're playing Commander. How do you determine who gets second in Commander? Is it the person that got eliminated second to last? The person that got eliminated last? The first person to get eliminated? Number of cards that everyone had in hand? Everyone's life totals? Creatures you had on board? How much Commander damage you dealt? Like, there's every metric that you could possibly think of is going to be innately depending on the board state and the decks that were played, and will be extremely arbitrary, you know? A common example of a game that does, I think, have a good assessment of how well you did is Catan. It's not perfect, but a lot of Catan tournaments will use the amount of total victory points obtained as a tiebreaker. And so because of that's a common thing in tournaments, I think that shows that even the competitive community agrees that you can determine who got second in a game of Catan. Victory points are a pretty good estimation of your performance in the game. And so, in a game of Catan, in that situation, you should secure second for yourself. You should not go for the long shot of getting first but probably getting last. Not that I think that situation is possible in Catan, but in games like Catan that have that very objective way of determining second, you should just secure second for yourself. You should average your maximum placing in the bracket, or in the players. Maximize your place. Try and get second, if you can't get first. Now, the reason that I say this is, I alluded to earlier the arbitrariness. I think it's pretty unsportsmanlike to declare, I I will say I had the moral victory and it got basically second, or if I get one of every color of cube, or if I control this stronghold that I started in. If you come up with your own arbitrary moral victory and then pursue that, I think that's unsportsmanlike in very interactive games, because you are now pursuing this victory condition that you made up. You are now playing a different game than everyone else at the table, meaning that players who are still playing the game, do still have a chance of first, are no longer playing with someone who's acting rationally. They are now playing with this force of nature that is unpredictable, because they're not playing the same game you are. They're playing, I want to get one of every color cube. They're playing, I want to control Carthag. And so because of that, I think it's not very fair, because your actions will most likely, again, assuming the game's interactive, your actions of, oh, I just want to take Carthag, that's most likely going to benefit one player way more than another, and you've just king-made someone. And most people, except Cole Worley, think king-making is bad. I think king-making is bad. Games that have very large amounts of king-making, I find not very fun. And so, because of that, I think you should not make up your own arbitrary win conditions and then go for that instead. I think you should just kind of stay out of the way in a situation where you can't get first, you know? If you can't win, just kind of stay out of the way. If you started the turn controlling 2 strongholds, try and keep one. Maybe try and keep 2. You know, you just kind of have to, don't make any big plays, basically, is the thing that I make, which does kind of suck, but hopefully the game is designed in a way that the game is basically over. Like, the game will be over in another 10, 20 minutes if you're in that position. So, yeah. Don't pursue your own arbitrary win position conditions. I think only secure second if it's very objective who got second in the game. Alright. The other thing I want to talk about is when does the always play for maximum placement mindset apply from turn 1? Okay, let's say you're playing a game, and let's say you're playing Sidereal Confluence, and you make a deal with someone turn 1 saying, hey, you and me, let's enter into alliance. Only one of us can win the game, but let's basically ally to secure the fact that one of us is going to basically get first and the other person's basically going to get second. Let's cooperate such that on average we perform better than we would have done if we didn't ally, but I'm basically not going to win. I'm basically getting it second. I think that making that play, it's kind of lame, right? It's kind of lame to say, I'm not gonna even try to win this game. I'm just gonna try to get second, and this other person will get first. Even if it means, on average, you score higher in the placement than you would have normally. Even if it delivers those results, it's kind of, I think that's also bad sportsmanship. I think you should play to win games. I should make a side note, in games where it's like a big tournament and you add up your points at the end to determine who wins the whole tournament, this is a little different. I'm talking about, like, you're sitting down with your friends to play the game together. It'd be really lame and kind of unsportsmanlike to just go for second, basically. I don't have a anti-king making or any reason why. I just feel like it's kind of lame to just play for second every game. You know? I think you should play for first. So that kind of sums up my thoughts. If the game has objective first, second, third, and fourth, you should play for second if you can't win. But if you can win, you should go for it. Definitely from turn 1, you should be trying to win the game and get first place. And that shift happens at some point in the game where you should just secure second for yourself. And I think that shift happens when you look at the board and say, okay, in my opinion, for me to win, do other players need to make absolutely catastrophic mistakes? Basically throw. Does it require, like, multiple players to basically throw the game and make like absolutely abysmal decisions for me to get first? If so, play for second. You know? Yeah, and it's a little arbitrary because it's always going to be arbitrary, but yeah, if it basically requires 2 other people to completely throw the game, or 1 person to throw the game in a way that's basically unheard of, you should just play for second. I will say, I think a lot of people might have backlash against my you should never come up with arbitrary moral victories, because that's the fun for some people. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna have fun because it's 20 minutes left and I can't win. You want me to just basically sit on my hands? And I'm like, yeah, kinda. That's kinda, I think that's what you should do. Maybe that's not charitable of me, but I think it preserves the integrity of the game for the people who are still trying to win. Ideally, games would be designed where that situation doesn't arise, but if you're playing a game where it does, you should, keep the integrity for the other people still playing to try and win. Alright. Those are my thoughts. Play for first all the time, unless 2 things are true. The getting second is very objective, and the only way you get first is if more than 1 player or make catastrophic mistakes, or 1 player makes completely unheard of level mistake, So, those are my thoughts. I think I got a little ranty in there. I don't know. When I make these videos, I want to kind of have this energetic, happy persona, and so I don't want to get ranty. Maybe if I watch this back in a week, I'll think, man, why was I so angry? But I come at this because I care about it, Sue me. Here are my crimes in order: loving too much, caring too much, bioterrorism.